Proverbs 4. Proverbs 4. Page 674. Do you have prayer requests this morning? Prayer Sister Mary. Is she? All right. Others. Lexi and Dalton and family. Prayer requests. Kirk family. Everybody associated with that? Yes. Okay. Let's pray for them. Jeff Horn. Is that here? Okay. Jeff Horn. Other prayer requests. Pray, pray for Shelby. Mary Lee Christie is also having a test done tomorrow. Pray for her. Good as far as I know. Good. You might make it in. You never know. No. Pray for the Browns as they travel. Also for the Dobsons, they're traveling. Pray for Jeffrey. Okay. Where y'all going? How come I don't get to go anywhere? Well, I don't want to go then. Never mind. Yeah, pray for Brother Jimmy. He peeled back the skin on his hand this week. And pray for rain. Well, you know, the funny thing is we went from being able to hear the grass grow to now it's dry. I mean, yeah. All right. Of course, pray for Sister Charlotte. Um, she says she'll probably be down there till January. Others. Pray for the lost. Pray for peace. Pray for sanity, decency. Trying to see where the message was. Unity. Well, that's right. Good. Be good. Yeah, don't forget homecoming 2 weeks. Proverbs 4. So pray for Sister Mary and also for Brother Butch, Lexi, and Dalton, all those affected by the tragedies of the week, the Kirk family. Jeff Horn, surgery Tuesday. Shelby, the baby coming tomorrow. Jennifer, knee surgery tomorrow. Mary Lee Christie, a test tomorrow. The Browns, the Dobsons, Jeffrey, and the Mosleys traveling. Brother Jimmy with his hand, and for Rain, and for Sister Charlotte, and for the Mosleys family, for all of our families. Pray for one another. And for Rick. Always pray for Rick. Yes, he did. Pray for Rick. Good deal. Unspoken requests, personal needs. Everybody's got needs. Tomorrow. The Browns, the Dobsons, Jeffrey. Father, we love you. We're thankful to be able to be in your house today. Thank you for your love, for our faith, for those who shared it with us, that we could have that security in our hearts. Draw us to you. Make us useful. Guide the time that we have together. We pray that you will give safety to those who will be traveling, and give them a good time while they're away and return them to us safely. Or for each of us, Brother Jimmy with his hand, Brother Andy, Brother Stan, Brother Rodney, that you'll raise them up, give them strength. Lord, help us to be part of the solution, to guide others to you. In Jesus' name, amen. Sonny, you might have to come teach. You want to borrow any of them? Thank you. In Proverbs, now, especially covering 4 chapters today, we're going to obviously skip some words and some verses. But I would encourage you, remember the guidance on Proverbs, there's one for each day of the month. So each day of the month, read one. And it covers a whole range of issues of life. And to stay in it, to keep our minds sharp and centered, and from being led away. But in Proverbs 4 and verse 5, get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not. To know truth. How do we get wisdom and understanding? A lot of times we say do it, but we don't say how to do it. How do we do it? How do we get it? Listening. 2 ears and 1 mouth on purpose. Listening. Watching, observing, paying attention. You know, there's so much that we can observe. Where does the sun rise? In the east. How do you know that? Because somebody told you? No, because you observed it, right? Somebody told you that was east and that's the sun, and you put 2 and 2 together. All right, so we take what we're told and what we read and what we hear, and we challenge that by what we observe. If I tell you I am a Christian, does that mean that I am a Christian? Not necessarily, but you take what you hear and you challenge that by what you observe. So there's the observation, there's the hearing, and the combination of the two will be our experience and our understanding. Now, if I tell you that I am a Christian and you see that my behavior is not Christ-like, then I am what? A hypocrite or a liar. Just whatever word you want to use. Right? But why? Because what you heard did not reflect what you observed. You saw something different. Now, you say, well, but Pastor, being a Christian doesn't mean you're perfect. Well, but being a Christian means that I observe I am in the discipline. I'm a disciple of Christ. And if I am not following Christ in his actions and his instruction, then I'm not a Christian. Might be saved, might be going to heaven, my sins washed away. But if I'm not following in the path of Christ, I am not a Christian. You see, the term Christian is a slur. It's a word that was attached in Bible days, they were called Christians first where? Antioch, right? And so they were called Christians there because they were following Christ. They were disciples of Christ. The initial 12 were not called Christians while Christ was ministering to them. It was not until Antioch was reached and the Greeks and all of those up there observed the behavior of those people and said, those people are trying to be like Christ. And so they started calling Christians. You got to put the slur in it or it's not accurate. And so understand our term, the term Christian is a reflection of our behavior, not just our belief. I know today we say, well, that's just your belief. No, the original term means what you do, not just what you believe. If I say I believe it's going to rain, and I don't put the top up on my Jeep, by the way, I don't have a Jeep anymore. I missed that thing. If I don't put the top up on my Jeep, you say, well, he doesn't really believe it's going to rain. If I don't roll my windows up, you say, he doesn't really believe it's going to rain. But I believe it's going to rain. I'm going to put all that, I'm going to act accordingly. So it's going to be what you hear combined with what you observe, and then you will draw your conclusion. So get wisdom, teaching, observation, balance it, and draw your conclusion so you have understanding. We get understanding, go back to what Sister Tammy said, by listening. Listening. Verse 6, forsake her not, she shall preserve thee. Wisdom and understanding shall preserve you. We'll look at another text later, and he says, it will save yourself and those who hear you. Well, he's not talking about salvation. He's talking about chaos, crisis. You know, most of the trouble, if not all of the trouble in our lives, we created. How? Words, actions, choices, whether it's the people that we put around us, we brought it into our own lives. We did that. Now, it's not impossible. I should say it's not possible to have a life that is only influenced by your decision. Our decisions are influenced by others, or our lives are influenced by the decisions of others. But for the most part, the trouble in our lives was a result of our own choices, most of the time. But if we'll get wisdom and get understanding and not forsake that wisdom and understanding, if we'll do what we believe, if we'll do what we know, it will preserve us. It will keep us from a lot of stress and a lot of trouble, a lot of crisis, a lot of unnecessary evil. And verse 7, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. Learn, read, listen. You know, there's so much that we spend so much time with entertainment instead of with information. We could be learning. We could be growing. We could be, increasing our understanding of the world and increasing our understanding of people and increasing the understanding of ourselves. How many of you learned something medical this year that helped you in your own health? Anybody? Just about 3 of you. Okay. But we learn things. We learn what we should be eating and drinking and what we shouldn't be eating and drinking, and realizing that those things affect our health in such a magnanimous way. It's such a huge part of who we are. Wisdom is the principal thing. Verse 7, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Verse 8, exalt her, and she shall promote thee, shall bring thee honor and when thou dost embrace her. Again, wisdom, wisdom. Verse 13, take fast hold of instruction. Anybody get in trouble for talking too much in school? Why were we there? Why were we there? To hear what they had to say, not for them to hear what we had to say. Yeah, that's right. That is the problem. You're right about that. She is thy life, it says. Instruction. Verse 14, enter not into the path of the wicked. Go not in the way of evil men. There's a balance in our learning, in our desire to know and understand, that we have to be careful that we don't cross over into paths that are dangerous. Dangerous, so much of what's being revealed even this week, so much is being revealed about what's really in the heart of the people who are leading and teaching. It's tragic that we have had to have an event like this to uncover and to discover the wickedness, the vileness, the venom that is in people's heart. Because Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if it wasn't in here, it wouldn't come out here. And so it's being revealed to us. So we have to be careful that we don't put ourselves in those situations where we become indoctrinated by it. Sometimes that's by friends. Look, we need to grow, we need to learn, we need to broaden our understanding. But we have to be careful that we don't put ourselves in a position to be trapped, to be snared. Verse 14, enter not into the path of the wicked, go not in the way of evil men. Verse 18, but the path of the just is as the shining light that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. The path of the just. Verse 23, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. You remember what Jesus said in the New Testament like that? In your patience possess ye your souls. In your patience you possess your soul. It's that self-control. It's that command of our own bodies and our own tongues and even over our own minds, that control that we have, that restraint that we have. Look, let's be honest. We've all had thoughts that could have resulted in arguments, right? More than just debate. But we chose not to say it, even though we thought it. That's self-control. And the Bible says, if you have control over your tongue, you're in control of your body. You're in control of your life. So it's a matter of having control over what we actually express and over what we think. Now, Jesus said, and we say, well, it's just as bad to think it as it is to do it. Well, Jesus said, if you think it in your heart, then you've already committed it. But let me just go a step farther and say it's still better not to do it. It's still better not to say it. You may have thought it, and you say, well, I'm already convicted in front of God. Okay, but don't take it to the next level. Yeah, don't destroy everything. So you can have a thought and not share it. That's called self-control. He says, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. So what we put in is what we get out. So whether that's entertainment, song, video, television, movies, reading books, listening to speakers, having conversations, all of the ways that we gain information, we have to make sure that we are keeping our heart with all diligence and guarding our heart with all diligence so that we don't go sideways. Verse 24, put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. It is better for a man to be thought a fool, right, than to open his mouth and remove all doubt. Sometimes what we say, I can think back to my childhood. I mean, like, as a boy, I still remember times when I have said something that just embarrassed me because it was just dumb. I'm saying it wasn't bad, it was just dumb. And sometimes trying to sound smart, trying to be funny, and it just didn't go that way. But we got to have control of our own mouths. Put a froward mouth far away, and perverse lips. Are we responsible for our thoughts? The answer is twofold. The answer is yes. It's like our dreams. The dreams, as best we understand it. Now, you know, we only know what we know. As best we understand it, our dreams are the result of our brain storing information. So, what you've experienced today, what you've read today, what you thought about today. So, that's the reason that sometimes we see people and have experiences in our dream because our brain is just filing away all that information, putting it where it goes. And as that slide comes up, if you will, it's part of our dream. And that's why also we go from one scene to the next scene so quickly in our dreams. Um, so, am I responsible for my dreams? Well, it's a result of what I was already thinking about, right? So, am I responsible for my thoughts? When a thought enters into our mind, and they say it's actually like a little spark, that little spark, and we've all experienced it, we have an idea, we say, I need to write that down, right? And then you say, where's my pencil? So, what have you done? You've left that idea, you've thought about writing it, you've looked for a pencil and a paper, and by the time you've got all that, where's the idea? Because that idea only sparks for a fraction of a second. And if we don't seize on that idea and then carry it into a thought and then carry it into, a greater purpose, then that idea could just disappear. So, if I have an idea and it's not a holy idea, let's say, and I say, I don't want to think about that, and I refocus my energy and my thoughts to something else, then that thought's gone. So I'm not responsible for it. But if I take that thought, and it's an unholy idea, let's just use that term, an unholy idea comes into my mind, and I think, well, if I did it this way, if I did it that way, and I start to entertain that idea and then stretch it into actually developing a plan, not only am I going to be responsible for the thought, but it's probably going to result in terrible action. So we have thoughts that just, it's a result, again, of our experience. If we don't seize on them, then it's not going to develop into a poison in our lives. But if we seize on them, it could ruin our lives. So, yes, ma'am. It's a careful thing because how does he get that idea to us? You know what I'm saying? How does he get that idea to us? He has no authority within my flesh. He has no authority in my spirit, has no access. So whatever he does, he has to do out here. So what he presents in front of me, I said it a couple of weeks ago. I don't think we got it on camera, which was better, but I can remember, and this has been, 25 years ago, a woman walked into where I was working, and she just took my breath away. She was so gorgeous. And I thought to myself, this is the devil. This is the devil. I got to go do something. And why? Because I do believe he'll use things like that to distract us or to pull us into a pit that we don't want to go into. So, obviously, when I say that, there was another time when another gorgeous woman walked into the room and took my breath away. Anyway, I got that part on video. I know, got to get out of here, climb out of the hole. But so it happens out here. Whatever he does, it happens out here. Okay? But remember, he is spirit. He is spiritual. So what he does is not necessarily visual. It's not visible. It could be, many different ways. He's got all kind of tricks. Could be people, again, media, or whatever, but whatever he does has to happen out here. Anything that happens in here is not him, it's me. Because I seized on what I saw out there. So it's a great point. Go down to chapter 5, verse 15. While we're talking about gorgeous. Drink waters out of thine own cistern, running waters out of thine own well. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets. Let them be only thine own, and not a stranger's with thee. Let thy fountains be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. Let her be as the loving hind, and I'll let y'all read the rest of verse 19. I will not read that out loud. Now you're reading your Bible. See how that worked? What's he saying in verses 15 through 19? He's saying, mind your own business. Mind your own business. Take care of your marriage. Water your own grass, right, as they say. Yeah, and drink your own water. Stay with what is yours. Don't worry about everybody else and everything else. Don't get involved. Don't meddle. Don't interfere. You know how much stress we bring into our lives because we mess with other people? We could really settle our lives and make peace if we would just draw that circle a lot tighter with our family and what's ours and what's our business, and stop getting in everybody else's business. What a relief that would be if we could just stop minding everybody else's business. And so that's what 15 through 19, obviously, and focused here on marriage. On marriage. How many of you know what it takes, and don't have to raise your hand, to make a marriage work? I mean, we could make a list, like we said last week about John Wesley. We could make a list about how to be a good husband or how to be a good wife. Couldn't we? We could make a list. Maybe because of what you say, well, I know this is what was good for my marriage. And maybe you say, well, I know this is what was bad for my marriage. And so we could have two lists. Do this, don't do this. We could make a list, couldn't we? Right? So you write the list. So if we had that list, we could follow that list. But the point is this, we know. You see, when we come in here, I don't get up here and jump and scream and bounce around about sin. You know why? Because you know. I do not have to stand here in accusation and tell you you're a dirty, rotten scoundrel and belong in hell. And that I am too. You know why? Because we know. I don't have to humiliate you and try to make you feel bad, because we know already that we don't deserve the grace of God. So I don't have to convince you of that. I don't have to sit here and outline an idea, every sin that's in your life and everything that's destructive to yourself and family. I don't have to do that, because we know what hurts. We know what's destructive. Well, in the same way, what he's saying here is, so you already have the answers, so follow them. You already know what works, so do it. You know, it's different when you're 18. How many of you had a different idea about what marriage was when you were 18? And maybe you figured out about 2 or 3 weeks after you're married, something wasn't right. Somebody lied, right? But as you grew and you developed, and again, 68 years later, your impression and your expectation are different than they were when you were 18 years old. So what do we call that? We call that wisdom and understanding, because we took what we heard and we challenged it by what we experienced. And that gave us wisdom and understanding. The ways of a man, verse 21, are before the eyes of the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. Everything we do, God sees. Everything. There's nothing hidden. Chapter 6, verse 9. Oh, let's go to verse 6. Go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer, and gathereth her food in the harvest. We deduce that we are the smartest of all creations. And Solomon said, look at the ant. You sluggard, he said, being lazy. If you look at what has to be done and you just do it. I could clue you in on a little secret here. When you take the emotions out of it, everything gets easier. People look at us and they say, how do you do what you do? I can tell you real simply, I take the emotions out of it. I don't take it personally. When my child talks back to me or doesn't do what I tell them to do, I don't take it personally. Because I know that tells me about them, not about me. Now, I'm not saying it goes without discipline. There is a response, but not a reaction, because I've taken the emotion out of it. I know, look, if I cannot lead a sensible, educated, reasonable adult to do the right thing, how in the world can I expect a 2-year-old to do the right thing? See, so my influence can only go so far. I cannot fix people. All I can do is offer direction. That's all I can do. Whether they're 20 or 31, that's their 30, how old is he now, 32? Or whether they're 2, all I can do is offer direction. Now, obviously, again, as a parent, I have a greater responsibility than that, but when you take the emotions out of it, it gets a lot easier. How do you do it? Just do it. You don't get mad about it. You don't get upset about it. You don't worry about it. You know you got to do this. You got to get up at 5:30 in the morning because you got to get everything rolling. And so you don't get mad about getting up at 5:30. You just get up at 5:30. How many of y'all were already up before I got up? All right. Okay, a couple of you. A couple of you said 5:30. That's late. Why'd you sleep in so long? Right? So you get up and you just do it. You don't get mad about doing it. You just do it. And you just go to bed when it's on time, and you just go to work when it's time, and you go eat when it's time, and you don't get upset about it. Why? Because you're not emotional about it. Look what he says here. You just study the ant. Do you think the ant gets mad in the morning or gets happy in the afternoon when it's time to go to bed? He just does it. Just does it. He doesn't have a boss, doesn't have a supervisor, nobody stand over him and tell him what to do. Just do it. And that's what look at that. That's what he's telling us. Verse 9, how long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? He likes that word, doesn't he? When wilt thou rise out of thy sleep? That's what Bob said to me. He said, 5:30, get up. Why are you staying in bed so long, son? Right? Because Sam's ready to go. Rise out of thy sleep. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that traveleth, and thy want as an armed man. So we need sleep. Sleep is good. Let me establish that first. We really need sleep every night. Rest is for the body, sleep is for the brain. The brain has got to have time to recover. So the less mental work we do, the less sleep is demanded. But the more mental work we do, the more sleep is demanded. So understand that. You say, well, my body's tired. Well, then rest. If your brain's tired, you need sleep. So sleep and obviously hydration, but Solomon doesn't tell us that here. Verse 12, a naughty person, a wicked man walketh with a froward mouth. Now, that's the second time he's brought up that mouth, isn't it? That froward mouth. We can really tell a lot about somebody by how much they talk, what they talk about, and how what's the word I'm looking for? How much they try to draw attention to themselves by their speaking. So it tells us a lot about ourselves. Somebody who speaks more quietly, who only speaks when necessary, then we learn a lot about them. Look at verse 14. Frowardness is in his heart. That's where it's coming from. He devises mischief continually. he soweth discord. So somebody who's always got something to needle, always got something negative to say. Right there, verse 14. He soweth discord, trying to cause division. Be mindful, there are people like that around. And when you find that person, if you can, draw them in, have a conversation. But if you can't change their ways, if you can't, then be careful about how much time you spend with them. Because if they're talking to you about others, they're talking to others about you. So be mindful when you get around somebody who's always got something negative to say. Verse 16, chapter 6. These 6 things does the Lord hate. Yea, 7 are an abomination to him. Verse 17, a proud look. You ever meet somebody and they just had an attitude and they didn't say anything yet? A proud look. 2, a lying tongue. Hands that shed innocent blood. A heart that devises wicked imaginations. Look at the things he's talking about. He's talking about our appearance, our speech, our action, our imagination, feet that be swift in running to mischief. Again, our desires, our inclinations. Verse 19, a false witness that speaketh lies. And he that soweth discord among brethren, causing division. Why would people sow discord among brethren? So why do I want you to hate Brother Sonny? Okay, well, so if I could break up your friendship, then you'll be more loyal to me, right? So in discord, breaking up. Some people see a good thing, they can't wait to tear it up. We got to be mindful of, watch people. That's that understanding, that's that wisdom. Watch people. Pay attention. And when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Look at verse 24. He goes on here. We'll just read it, but we could tell that the attention has shifted. To keep thee from an evil woman, from the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman, lust not after her beauty in thine heart, neither let her take thee with her eyelids, especially these eyelashes they got now, they're like that long. For by means of a whorish woman a man is brought to a piece of bread. The adulteress will hunt for the precious life. Can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? Do you really think you can do this and it's not going to touch your life? It's not going to affect who you are? It's just going to be a contained sin? Can one go upon hot coals and his feet not be burned? So he that goeth into his neighbor's wife, whosoever touches her, shall not be innocent. Verse 32, but whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it to destroyeth his own soul. It's not that sin. If it's out here, it's a temptation. But once it comes in here, not only is it sin, but it's, why is it sin? Why does God prohibit it? Because it's bad for you. It will ruin your life. It will destroy your soul. It could destroy your mind. It could destroy your health. It could destroy your relationships, your family, your job. It can destroy everything. And it breaks down our resistance. That's right. So the next time it's not a big deal because we did it before. I might need to talk to you later. Might have to have a little counseling. But he's right. He's right, isn't he? If we go into a new place, if let's say today I say, well, would you drive me to Atlanta? Now, how many of you have ever driven through Atlanta? How many of you would like to drive through Atlanta? None of you, right? Oh, one of them says maybe, right? A couple of times. Depends on if we're going to the mountains. If we're going to the mountains, I'll go, right? But it's that drive is treacherous. I don't even think they have speed limits there. but it but it just gets it's so dangerous. And you say, "Well, I've never done it before," then it's very scary. But after you've done it a few times, when you go to the mountains, I don't know about you, but when I go to the mountains, I'm like this when I get there. Like, ooh, I can't look over I can't look at anything. I got to drive. And then by the time it's over, like, hey, look over there, right? Did you have something? And you wonder what Bathsheba's story was to him, you know, because we see what she did, but look forward 20 years as a now older woman, and she looks back on that experience with David, with her husband being killed and the deceit behind it, um, the loss of her first child, and how she once Solomon was old enough to have that conversation, what she might have said about it. Mhm. It wasn't really a secret, right? And, and how much of that information did he get from his mom? How much did she pull him to the side and say, "Don't do this. It does hurt people." Exactly right. Good point. Um, Look at what he says in verse 30. Men, do not despise a thief if he steal to satisfy his soul when he is hungry. But if he be found, he shall restore sevenfold. He shall give all the substance of his house. So he says, yes, stealing is a sin, but we also have to look deeper. Be careful with this, but he says we have to look a little deeper and see, why did he steal? He stole because he was hungry. He still has consequence. He still has to pay for his crime, even to the extent of liquidating everything he's got to pay back sevenfold. I mean, it's a penalty, not just to pay for it, but to be penalized. But at least understand why he did what he did. And it's important for us when somebody is caught in a sin to look and say, okay, see if we can unwind this. I tell you about some friends of mine, um, and she was so cruel. Her words of venom, just her tongue just dripped with venom and anger and bitterness. But as their pastor, I got to know who they were. And so when somebody would say to me, I can't believe she talks to him the way she does, I'd say, but you don't know how he talked to her for the first 20 years of their marriage. There's an old country song. Don't blame her. Life made her this way. And that's the reality. We might be able to see right now, but let's look a little deeper and see what made them who they are and how they are. Again, doesn't absolve the consequences of their sin. But let's look a little bit deeper and see why they became who they are now. We're not going to get to chapter 7. Let me give you the Cliff Note version. There's a lot of women out there, and you can balance it and say men too, okay, that are just looking for an opportunity to ruin your life. And Solomon says, I'm just looking out my window watching these young fools get caught up in these traps. With those, there she comes fluttering those eyelashes. and he falls into it, and you know what it's going to do? Ruin his life. So anyway, let's take a break.